Free. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my Pop Star special. Thanks for joining me. I'm with, wow, a bigger diva than I thought. The drag queen, musician, and icon herself, themselves. I don't know. Like, just so everybody knows, the camera came on and my guest was like, I ain't saying nothing till you start recording. So, by all means, please, like, take center stage, darling. Please welcome Dust Queen, everybody.
Hi, PP.
That was real, bitch. I'm like, wow. And then I thought like I had this moment of, oh my God, like, are they gonna say something crazy or like drop some kind of bombshell?
No, no. It was just that I had been thinking about my opening line all morning, like calling you PP was just part of my. I was like, "That's PP. That's
Yeah, baby.
you're my PP.
I
You've
love
always been
it.
my PP."
You call me whatever you want. I'm here for it. I'm so happy to talk to you. I can't remember. I know you and I have spoken about Miss Jan Arden in the past, our bestie, who is hopefully,
She's listening.
yeah, of course.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jan. Miss you. Um, I recently am exploring TikTok and you've been coming up a lot on my For You page.
Oh,
And I'm like, I saw your live show a while back when Jem was performing, or like when you had done a show with Jem. I've seen a few of them and I was watching your TikToks, and I really do feel like you are unique when it comes to drag for sure. I've always known that, but also your music too. It's like you sing live at drag shows, which is not common. I mean, singing live, period, honey. And then your music is always really nice, like really good melodies, really good lyrics. I know you work really hard at them. And then to top those two things off, when I was looking at your website, I was reminded how you have approached your career completely different than other drag people I know, which is building like a mailing list or like not relying solely on social media. So all these things have been floating through my brain when I was sitting down to talk to you because it's not easy to carve out your own space, but you're doing all of these unique things that seem to be working for you.
yeah. I mean, when I started 10 years ago, I just I think I wanted to be a part of the community so bad. And then once I got into it, I was like, oh, but there's like people here that I really like who don't fit into this. And I think might be one of them. Like I'm putting a wig on my head, but I hate it. There's so many things in the drag world. It's funny you bring up social media because one of my big pet peeves is when people start drag and then they start a new Instagram account for their drag person. And
Yeah.
I'm like, stop doing that. You're not different. People connect with people. And if you approach drag as being this like otherworldly like diva, whether it be a drag
Mhm.
king, drag queen or thing, people are going to connect with you in that way.
Yeah.
And when I started music, the
Uh-huh.
reason I wanted to make music was because I wanted to leave something behind. Because I started to look around and realize that drag as an art form is ephemeral. And I chalk this up to the fact that, like, yeah, okay, we put on our makeup, sometimes we get photo shoots, we post that on the internet. If the internet went away, what would be left behind?
Oh my God, that's deep.
I
I was
know.
not expecting that. That's amazing.
So I was like, I
Wow.
need CDs, I need print material, I need to figure out how to do this cost effectively and scale it in a way that makes sense. So now when I go over to people's houses, I send people mail. I send postcards
Yeah.
to fans, like people I've never met from the internet and people that I love. And I go over to their house and there's pictures of me on their wall and on their fridge because I send them beautiful photography in the mail. Internet
Yeah.
goes away tomorrow, all of those are still out there.
Wow. That is so true and so valuable. Like the picture thing, I was at Shambhala like the year I met Evan, and one person had a Polaroid and took a big group photo, and we were all fighting over it because there was only one of them. So I get that. The thing about leaving something behind, that's really resonating with me because, back when I was doing music, like initially, there was my sense was nightlife in general was like magical and was inspiring me. And I got a sense that if you could imprint yourself onto that community or that scene, you become immortal in a way, in the way that they talk about people. Like, oh, like, Peter Breeze back in the day. And that's its own kind of tangible thing. But when I was thinking about doing music again and I was getting insecure because I felt like I was old and I'm not cool or blah blah blah, my mental the narrative, I'm trying to change the narrative in my mind to one day I'm gonna die and I'm gonna look back. And do I want to be the person who said no to recording a song, no to doing a video, no to performing because I felt like I was too old? Or do I just want to do the damn thing and it doesn't matter anyway? But that is a big, that's not easy. I would say it hasn't been easy for sure.
There's no such thing as too old, Peter. Are
No.
both huge fans of Jan Arden, and her career continues to hit peaks. It
Yeah.
continues to crest. And like she did not break it until she was 30. I did not start music until I was 30.
Yeah.
You have your entire life. The
Totally.
problem that we face is that we hold these tiny little rectangles and we just see young people posting on TikTok and getting popular and all of those sorts of things. But the world is so much fucking bigger than
Yeah.
this. And I think, I mean, I've told you this when we first met because I was starstruck because I came from a small town and then I moved to Calgary and I lived very isolated from queer community, but I was still getting extra west. And you were constantly in there. And so I was constantly on MySpace and seeing you there and like in extra. And I was like, Peter Breeze, like this is someone who is the gay scene. Like that is a gay person. And I come to Vancouver, I start doing drag, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I know Peter, but he moved away. Oh, I know Peter, he moved away." And then it took literally the pandemic for us to meet virtually because all of a sudden this barrier of he moved away disappeared because we
Hmm.
and now we've been to concerts together and like
Yeah.
one of those things.
I thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that that was the thing. I listen, sometimes I look back on my life and in my 20s and it's like, did that happen? Was that my life? And so when I have like when people tell me things like that, it's so validating because it was real and it wasn't just an exercise in my ego. Like it was self-indulgent, yes, but hopefully that did give off some playfulness. I was just following my dreams. It wasn't completely self-serving, but in our community before, social media had such a chokehold on us, before there was more representation in media, you had to look around for the people who, like, I only now feel like I have elder gay men that I would consider role models, but when I was in my 20s, it was like Paris Hilton, Britney Spears, and I was trying to carve out my own path. So it's so validating to hear that it wasn't all in vain. It's not like an echo chamber at the Odyssey in 2009. There was something else going on that is actually bigger than I am. It was a way to keep us all connected and plug us along.
The thing that needs to be said in the conversation around elders, especially for you and me, our generation, I'm 35, you're a woman of a certain age, um, is that the elders that we do have right now are the ones who survived.
Yes. Yes.
So we look around and there's few, and sometimes I take a step back and I think about what it would be like to be with the ones that we lost and what they might have contributed to the culture or what they would have given to us in way of art or thinking or protest.
Oh.
And there's so much that was lost because of
So
that.
much. And I mean, I was talking to my aunt about this last weekend. We were talking about the 80s and the AIDS crisis, and it's hard to imagine that not happening, but I mean, our elders are not necessarily the people related to us by blood. You and I know that, but people listening may not get that. So you're already having to sort of go out on your own, find these people, cultivate the relationships, figure out who you trust. But if that breaks at one point in the lineage, then there is like sex, douching, drugs, like all of these things you have to learn on your own. Like
Yeah.
I never,
Yeah.
babe,
Well, not anymore. Not
well,
anymore.
Yeah.
we also now put things on the internet as a
Uh,
generation. So like we've kind of caught up a little bit, but the problem is that our generation, especially the ones that are coming up now, I don't want to say this because who knows what the adversity is going to be moving forward in this
yeah.
world. Like, you know, the secret to all of this is to care for each other.
Yeah.
That's the secret.
Simple and hard at the same time. Like I've said this before, when I was a naive boy coming from Calgary, thinking that if I made a gay song that was shamelessly gay and I was gay, that all the gay men in the world would be like, yes, and we would all live happily ever after. But it was the opposite. And I feel like when you put yourself out there, I don't know, the younger generation may have to speak to this, but maybe it's faster to find your community online. Maybe it's not. I know that in real life in the club scene, there certainly was not an automatic kumbaya because we were all queer. It was the opposite, and you had to fight to find your people, even within that space. So now with the internet, does it make it easier to find your people, or does it create more alienation because there's just so much of everything?
I mean, nightlife is really interesting because I think that I started to make friends the more I went to things.
Yeah.
You know, people recognize a face over
Yeah,
time
totally.
and
Yeah.
a face at the Odyssey or at the Junction or at celebrities, God forbid, or at RIP. They just like it it changes because you're like, oh, this person's here all the time, just like me, and that's the initial common thread, right?
Yeah.
And then the other common thread is bringing it back to music. So like you're the one who's on stage, you're the one who's singing
Uh,
"Buy Me a Drink." We're the ones who are like, yeah, buy me a drink, buy me a drink. But I'm in Calgary singing "Buy Me a Drink" because I need gay community. I need
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that queer connection. And like you never know how someone's gonna find you or connect to you.
Totally.
Opportunity leads to something.
So I want to talk about your music because listen, we're in an era where people go on Drag Race and they all record songs and they're all very the same. And I think some queens have their moment. Like there are some I mean, RuPaul specifically, there's some RuPaul songs I like contestants on Drag Race. I don't know, definitely not in my like top played. But again, you went in a different direction. One, as far as I know, you're not trying to be on Drag Race. That's not something that you were ever pursuing, which makes you stand out. And two, your music is very singer-songwriter. Like you're not trying to do a that you perform at midnight, right? Like you are almost a folk artist, I would say.
I would say there are elements of like I would call it queer folk, but I wouldn't throw all my music into that. I would say that that's a sub genre because I'm balladeering in that way. I'm like
What does
telling
that mean? I read that on your website. What is balladeering?
balladeering is just someone who tells stories through song.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I feel like what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to translate the things I feel about my life and my experiences to leave behind as a record and or a reminder for myself.
Oh,
So when it comes to drag race songs and lyrics, for example, they write about specific niche cultural moments that happen in the show. So like
yep.
RuPaul's song "Blame It on the Edit," like
Yep.
that's like a thing that was said and then they extrapolated it into a song and like that's very niche. It's very specific to that. Whereas I read books on songwriting and I learned some of the mathematics of songwriting and learning more of the like writing elements
Hmm.
to write a song that I like. I went to the songwriting school of the Counting Crows and Matchbox 20
Oh,
and Arden.
yes.
Didn't go to the writing school of like diss tracks on Drag Race because like that I like those sometimes, but they've actually become the same
Yeah.
and are oftentimes devoid of interesting melody, and
Oh,
that also
Mel
takes emotion out of them. And emotion is the thing that I find interesting as an artist.
the approach to these singles from Drag Race, at least from my perspective, is to capitalize on the fleeting fame of the season. It's not to do anything other than like extend the platform or make a person more bookable. And to your point about Counting Crows and Matchbox 20, I have this 90s alternative playlist that I cannot stop listening to. There is a song, do you remember the band Sky Love Song? Okay. I cannot stop listening to this song. Evan is getting so mad. And I was born in 85, so 90s
Oh,
alternative.
love song,
Listen,
good old fashioned love song, and she decides that the dogs they belong outside. It's a living. Yeah,
here we go. Okay.
I'm familiar, Diva.
When I'm
That's
listening
so
to,
funny. Aren't they
yeah.
Canadians? Are they
I think
Canadian?
Montreal, yeah, I think. Um, but like those Matchbox 20, Counting Crows, it all takes me back to it's a very specific feeling. Eagle-Eyed Cherry, Saved Tonight.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. It's like dark, it's winter. I'm driving in my mom's Maroon Dynasty and those songs are playing. And I also like my contribution to songwriting, I don't play an instrument, I'm not a producer, but I write a lot of poetry. And I've also always come from that place of like, what am I trying to say about my emotional state? Often with a campy lens, but because making your own music, self-producing is so accessible now, there are so many reasons and perspectives. Like I'm doing this because I am a drag queen and I want to perform my own song, or I'm an artist and I have stuff that I need to say and I need to get it out, or somewhere in the middle. But you seem to, from the outside, definitely go in the direction of like this is my emotional world that I'm sharing with you.
It ties back to wanting to leave something behind. And I think that that desire creates the drive and the need for me to create something that is more substantive.
Hmm.
The oons oons music,
Yeah.
because while it all has its place, it all has its purpose, and the oons oons music is very important
Yeah.
because there are people out there who feel the emotion of that. That's why rave
Hmm.
culture is so big. Electronic music is so important. It just isn't what I like. So when I started to make music, the journey of like finding my sound was so fun. And that's why, people say that my music sounds so distinct, or you can tell that it's one of
Hmm.
my songs because I'm not making it for anyone. And I'm
Ah.
also keeping it one sonic ear in a very niche corner. And so
Mm.
I'm just pulling inspiration from B-sides of songs that I've loved my whole life and turning that into my sound.
Ah, I like it. How would you describe tell me like your songwriting process? How does that work? Is there like a formula? Is it random? Tell me.
So it's evolved, right? Because when I started in 2020, I didn't know what I was doing. And so I taught myself different methods, and me and the sole producer that I work with, Josh Eastman, we've tried on different things. For the record that I'm putting out this year, I wrote all of the lyrics and all of the vocal melodies, which was a new and very exciting thing for me. And I what that took was trusting myself. For
Mm.
a few times when I didn't write some of the vocal melodies and I went away and I just said, hey, I'm going to be rewriting this because I want it to flow the way I want it to flow my way. And Josh did all of the instrumentation and all of that sort of thing and led the project sonically in that direction. But he trusted me with that and he taught me how to write vocal melodies. A lot of co-writing did that too. I would say that my process is about, especially with this album, the subject matter is incredibly intense and incredibly uh it's just intense.
Okay.
And so I wanted to create hooks and melodies that sort of like pulled a deeper feeling out of a very simple phrase. Because
Wow.
I didn't want to write an album because I wanted to stay in the alt 90s vibe and I didn't want to get too specific. So I was like, how do we do this? And I was like, oh, we do this by making sure the melodies flow in an emotional way and the instrumentation brings you to that place. And lyrically, just giving moments of specificity while also keeping it broad.
Yeah.
the whole album is from a singular perspective, so most of it is sung from the first person,
Okay.
but it's not always from my perspective, which is really cool. So when you
Mm.
listen to it, there's a lot of I statements, there's a lot of like, this is what I'm feeling, but it's oftentimes some of the songs are conversational, so there can be two people singing at the same time or passing lyrics back and forth to each other.
Oh.
But when you listen to it, you're just going to hear the song top to bottom. I left something in there for me to discover and for me to talk to like specific groups of people about and to be able to talk on stuff like this. But like I was really inspired by my dad's passing and imagining what a conversation of accountability would be like from him about the abuse I faced in childhood and how I would basically how I ran away from my hometown and I ran away from my problems and they were just always standing right in front of me. And when he died, I had to find that accountability for myself. And so this record mirrors like losing myself only like losing myself while trying to find myself only to find myself and feel stronger and that you know those hurts and that pain is just a part of who I am now, and you got to just roll with it.
Baby, you're letting it out. This is crazy. This is amazing. I so appreciate your vulnerability and ability to open up like that and just you say it so simply. Like these big complex feelings, I can imagine that go on inside of you, but you have a plain way of describing it, which makes it relatable. And I thought about two things when you were speaking. One is disguising sad songs as happy songs, or vice versa, sad songs that are happy. Miss Jan Arden has a song called The Sound of, and I remember once she was introducing it and she said, this is actually a song about one night stands. It's not very happy, but very similar to what you said. We found a way to make it sound less sad. I don't know. It's a haunting song, one of my favorites. And then the other is Robin. She has Dancing on My Own and Call Your Girlfriend. And there's speculation that those are from the same night, but from different perspectives. And when she talks about songwriting in that album, Body Talk, her journey was always, how do I get to the chorus? How do I tell the story and build up to like Dancing on My Own or Call Your Girlfriend? And then when she released Honey, I believe it was, which was the follow-up like 10 years later, she said, I had no interest in getting to the chorus. It was like, what is the feeling of the song? I'm always like gravitating towards like 90s verse, chorus, like that big chorus, but it's changing. And I think you rarely get a glimpse unless you're a super fan on the strategy of a song like you just described, like multiple perspectives but from the first person's point of view, one specific feeling that you're kind of divvying up into different songs. You don't always get to hear that from artists, but it's so interesting. It's so much more layered and dynamic than people think it is.
There's a lot in songwriting that is left to the songwriter, which is really special. That's what makes the art form so incredible is that you can hide so much in it. And like a song can be so much psychobabble and just be about one single lyric. I love
Mhm.
song forms that are simple. I love verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro.
Ah,
I do not like, especially in my music now, I do not like a lingering, flowing outro. I want to get in and I want to get out. And
yeah.
because then I'm just like, you can listen to the song again. You
Yeah.
know, there's a lot of like, I think I heard Oops, I Did It Again for the first time in a long time the other day. And I was like, holy, oh, we did a Spice Girls drag brunch. And I was like, these outros are crazy. Like, why are
Go on
you
forever.
the chorus 5 times?
That's true. And it just gets quieter and quieter and quieter. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Very.
I just like to get in and get out. And I was talking to my band at rehearsal on Saturday, and I was literally like, hey, we're learning these new songs. I was like, the magic of them is that some of them just end abruptly.
I
There's
mean, I like that.
one that just ends after the bridge.
Oh,
I'm
surprise.
like, I'm like, here you go. And then there's one that like has 6 different parts to it. So it doesn't
Yeah.
really, it doesn't matter. I also, on this record, I played with the idea of Josh and I bringing melody from certain songs back in other songs to like pull it
Oh,
sonically together, which is really exciting. So it has a very, very distinct beginning, middle, and an end to it that carries a specific melody that pulls the through line through the record. And the final song on the record pulls lyrics from most of the songs from the
that's
album.
so cool.
Wrap it up.
My second album, Bonnie and Clyde, I was kind of post crazy. I mean, I was still a crazy club kid, but I was like, I need to be taken seriously. And every song was like, oh my God, falling in. What would it be like if I fell in love with the devil? What would it be like if I fell in love with a serial killer? What would it be like, just darker and high concept because I felt like I had more to prove. And the songwriting process was so different. Like really thinking about what this song means and what am I trying to say. And when I was working with Michael, he would play on the piano and we would talk it through, we would sing it. Whereas like the first album, Max, well, it was like, what sounds cool in a club? What's a cool name? What's a cool lyric? What's a cool look? And completely separate perspectives, but like great in their own way. I wanted to ask you about, okay, you have a band now and working with a band, but you do a wide range of gigs. Now, this is something that Max and I have been talking about for our next era is there's two options. I have historically been the musical act sandwich between drag queens at Prides. I did one at New West last year. I don't mind, like, I love performing, so I will perform pretty much anywhere. But Max is very much like, we should be focused on getting in front of audiences that are looking for queer music that they're actually going to go home and listen to, not just like turning a look and going home. And you do drag shows, you do music, you do, how do you approach your gigs? Like, do you have different buckets? Do you just sort of see what's out there? What's your strategy?
It's a really interesting question that I ponder daily. Obviously, a lot of my following, they love the drag. They've been around for a long time with the drag, and they're starting to warm up to the music.
Okay.
The goal is to, or the question, the hypothesis is, how do you get the drag fans to care about the live music, and how do you get the live music people to care about the drag? Because it's actually the merging of the two worlds. And so through my production company, Sleepy Queers Productions, I dreamed up this event concept that brings drag and music together, but tells it through pop culture. So essentially, we're selling a nostalgic experience. And inside of that, people get to watch very cool drag that is character driven and high concept. And then they also get to experience live music that is covers and originals. And so we started this process by putting on a huge production of Parks and Recreation, where drag performers brought to life characters from the
Where
60s.
was I? When did this happen?
Sold out. It was in March. It was crazy.
The hell? Okay.
And so then my band played songs by the fictional band from the TV show Parks and Rec, Mouse Rat. And so we blended covers with originals. And that essentially showed these drag audiences that there's this band that is like led by a drag queen. Also, Nora, who plays bass in my band, also plays in drag. And we're all trans non-binary as a band. And so it went off like gangbusters. And I was like, cool. People always like the first one. The second one's always going to be more difficult. And so
Yeah.
our second show is going to be on June 4th at the Fox. And it is School of Rock. And that essentially is going to be two bands and a handful of drag performers. It's such a cool concept because our production company has a mandate of making sure people know when the show starts and when the show ends. And blending the two art forms is really cool because it gives bands exposure to new audiences and it gives audiences new exposure to new bands and drag artists. But the thing is like it's it's hard to convey that there's also originals happening. So like for
Ah,
each band is doing one cover from one of the competing bands. So my band is pretending to be No Vacancy. And so we're doing this song called Heal Me, I'm Heartsick. And then Hot Dyke Party is being the like School of Rock band, and they're doing the song School of Rock, which is what the kids perform at the Battle of the Bands. So yeah, the idea and the thing is like there aren't any places where there's queer audiences, Peter, and you can't think of that. You actually have to get in front of music audiences. You have to because look at Devours. You're probably going to talk to
Yeah.
Devours for this.
Yeah.
Devours is a great example of this. Devours has a queer audience, but it's been cultivated by not necessarily always doing queer shows. And
Yes.
Devours will have more like info on that, but that's
Yeah.
probably a bigger question for them because again, I'm dealing in a very specific audience that
Yeah.
maybe doesn't have like, contact.
Devours, yeah, I spoke to Devours, love Devours. We had a little lunch date and came on the pod. Yeah, the experience is cultivating audiences over years and actually completely opposite from my experience, which was always a nightclub performer. And then I opened for Aaron Carter, Biff Naked, but those came like separate. And once they had built more momentum, whereas Devours was always music first, like club act, not part of the strategy. I guess there's insecurity about me like stepping into that space as a musician, as an artist, because I was never motivated. Okay, how am I going to say this? Um, I wanted to be the spectacle. I wanted to be the star. I wanted to perform, and I didn't really care about the avenue. Like I wanted to be on stage and do the music, but it never crossed my mind what my audience should be. I just wanted to be on stage in front of anybody. And now in this part of my journey, um, I'm not out all the time. So it's not just going to be like a byproduct of my social life. So it has to be more strategic. I love what you do about cultivating the audience and being very purposeful about how you are presenting the new music to them and like doing it in a way that is digestible and natural progression. Because yeah, you got to get their attention, baby. You got to get them.
Some advice from me to you, because like I tried to join the music scene from the drag scene, and I feel like the nightlife scene to the music scene is probably going to be the same.
Yeah.
Don't be offended if they don't pay attention to you. The secret is that they don't know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's hard to get people to know who you are.
Yeah. Hmm.
The secret to that is going out. And I know, but you don't have to do it a lot. And
Hmm.
you can be very strategic about where you go and how you show yourself. And you can also, like, if you wanted to come to School of Rock and introduce me and talk about yourself, like, I would be open to that. There's opportunities where you can be strategic to be
Hmm.
like, because the value in that is then you post on your socials, like, I'm going to this thing. You have value. You have to figure out how you want to share that. And that is a
Hmm.
cultural clout exchange.
Oh.
It's been stigmatized.
Hmm.
But the long and the short is like, I've met some people in the music scene who I'm like, oh my God, I love this person in this corner. I was like, but I don't fit here, but it makes me feel good. And I'm
Hmm.
less interested now in going places where I'm just trying to have the cloud exchange and go places like save the cloud exchange for collaborations,
Yeah.
save the cloud exchange for photography and videography and all of those
Hmm.
sorts of things. Pay attention to who's using who and who's in charge of what, because those sorts of relationships are the fun ones to build.
Yeah.
Those are the ones, that's where people's eyes are. People's eyes
Totally.
are on who's the producer. People's eyes are on, they're not necessarily always on everyone's going to Green Auto or everyone's going here, because the music of it all, the scene of it all, it's self-nepotistic in that everyone's just booking their friends because no one has other friends. You and we
Uh,
have friends who are not in the same art form as us.
mhm.
So we're not constantly talking about this. I obviously do have some friends in it, but like my big focus is music. So when I'm sitting
Yeah.
with drag performers, I'm just like, I I've hit a plateau when it comes to drag in a lot of
Right.
ways.
You've done it. Yeah, yeah, you've hit that place. Green Auto people keep bringing up. This is a music space. I've heard the same thing about the Vancouver music scene, like it's super small. Um, I mean, that was the same as nightlife, like same with promoters, booking the same drag queens, going to the same venues. Um, so it sounds like you are just dipping your toes in different places, bringing people together where you can, and then leaning into the creative collaborations that you think will capitalize most on whatever you're doing.
Exactly. And the thing is like trial and error. Try something. If it's not working for you, do something differently.
Yeah.
Again, I've been at this for 5 years, and this new album is very exciting. It's very good. And it's just, I want as many people to hear it as possible. And the opportunities that I'm getting now are starting to be bigger and more exciting, and they aren't happening in the Vancouver scene. And
Mm.
I hope that they do eventually lead to that. I just like I guess like I really like organization.
I can tell.
And it's not always that's not always people's priority.
Yeah.
And it's a part of my existence as an autistic person, and so I have to manage that, and my band is constantly being like you want these opportunities that are not organized, but then we have to drop out because they're not organized, or like whatever, or they just don't work out. And they're like, I don't understand this. It's and you recognize this, but it's the sense of wanting to belong.
Mhm.
It's the like, I don't care how much I'm getting paid or how many people are there. I just want to be there. I just want to be a part of it. I
Oh,
want people to be asking me to be a part of it.
yeah.
That's it. And I want to transform that feeling inside of myself. And so I'm working on that specifically in therapy, because it'll make going to things easier. It'll make my relationship with jealousy is always
Oh, just
top of mind. Jealousy is a healthy emotion that
okay.
gets to us where we want to be. And
Oh.
so I'm good at that in relationships because I'm polyamorous,
Mhm.
but it's challenging for me in art.
I mean, I like, oh my God, there was a musician named Diamond Rings. I don't know if you remember Diamond Rings. Blonde, twinkie, bisexual, queer. Like Diamond Rings came out and everybody was like, "Oh my God, he's just like you." But he had a record label. He was like singer-songwriter. And he ended up doing a surprise DJ set at one of my parties, serendipitously. And I was fucked up. And I was like, "Are you even gay?" Blah blah blah. Not, I don't know if I would do that anymore, but I was so jealous of any other person that I would get compared to or that I perceived as being more successful. And I've said this so often that I would lose sleep because I wasn't Lady Gaga, and people think I'm joking, but like, baby, I felt that I was the same. And so I really had a hard time accepting that I wasn't the same at the same time.
Totally.
Yeah, I get that.
I ride for queer artists. If there's
Yeah.
queers, I'm like, no matter what, because we know this term like girls girl, where you
Yeah.
support each other no matter what.
Yeah.
But queer's queer. If you're
Baby.
queer, I'm there, I'm supporting it. I'm not positively not physically there, because if
Yeah.
it's late at night, I'm not interested.
That's me.
Um, but like from afar, I'm listening to your music. I'm supporting you, because at the end of the day, more queers need to have more opportunities. If I didn't get it, but another queer person did, fucking work.
I'm so happy that you came to talk about your music. Can you share any like sneak peeks about your album? You've already shared a lot of like what's behind it and the philosophy, but title, single, date, release party. What
By
can
the time this airs, my single Little Plans will be out.
you
And my second single will probably be on its way pretty shortly. I'm trying to think. I guess I'll share with you, and don't clip
Less
this.
than a minute left, baby. You gotta go.
Oh, okay, my album is called Twin Lakes, which is
Say a
a
scream.
yeah, and I'll just give you that. And if you want to, when it comes out in September, if you want to sit down and talk about it,
I
it will
will.
be another little follow up.
Thank you for being here, Dust.
Thank you for
You're an
having me, Kiki.
angel. I
Bye.
will. Yeah, I'll talk to you really soon. You're a
Sounds
star.
good. Bye,
Bye,
Diva.
babe.